Alaskan Corla, the government recognises that managing a no-deal Brexit is an exercise in damage limitation. This bill represents a whole-of-government approach to protecting us from the worst effects. Fortunately, preparation and planning for a range of Brexit scenarios has been ongoing since well in advance of the UK referendum in 2016. A comprehensive set of government structures was put in place to ensure that all departments and their agencies were engaged in detailed preparedness and contingency activities. Dedicated actions to get Ireland Brexit ready were announced in the last 3 budgets, including significant investment for business. In the event of no deal, we recognise that it would be impossible to maintain the current seamless arrangements between the EU and the UK, or to put in place arrangements equivalent to those provided in the Withdrawal Agreement. So our focus is on the UK ratifying the Withdrawal Agreement, including the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland, which was concluded following intensive negotiations between the United Kingdom and the European Union. The protocol protects the Good Friday Agreement and the peace by respecting fully the constitutional status of Northern Ireland and the principle of consent as guaranteed by the Good Friday Agreement. It makes provision for the maintenance of the common travel area, ensuring that current bilateral arrangements can continue, whereby Irish and British citizens can live, work, study and access healthcare, social security and public services in each other's jurisdictions as though they were citizens of both. Indeed, it puts the common travel area on a much more solid legal footing than it is now. It also ensures that there is no diminution of rights, safeguards and equality of opportunity as set out in the Good Friday Agreement, and confirms that Irish citizens in Northern Ireland will continue to enjoy their rights as EU citizens. That is, freedom of movement across the continent without any need for visas or work permits. Protecting the Good Friday Agreement in all its parts, advancing North-South cooperation and the all-island economy, as well as protecting and maintaining the common travel area, underpin the government's approach to the provisions of this bill. The European Union has been unambiguous in that it is determined to do all that it can, deal or no deal, to avoid the need for a hard border and to protect the peace process. If the United Kingdom chooses to leave the European Union without a deal, Ireland and the EU will have responsibilities in terms of ensuring the protection of our single market and customs union, and the United Kingdom will have its own responsibilities, including meeting World Trade Organization requirements. All of us will have our respective obligations under the Good Friday Agreement and to ensure peace and stability in Northern Ireland. The backstop is a carefully negotiated compromise, in many ways drawn around the UK's red lines: the need to avoid a hard border on the island and to protect the integrity of the European Union customs union and single market of which we're part. It's a result of a negotiation between the EU and the UK and is supported by the people it's designed to protect: our citizens in this state and British and Irish citizens alike in Northern Ireland, as well as business, farming and civil society groups in both jurisdictions. The backstop is about avoiding a hard border and therefore protecting the peace. It cannot be time limited and cannot have a unilateral exit clause. If so, it would not be a backstop. The European Union is committed to exploring and trying to agree alternative arrangements with the United Kingdom to supersede the backstop in the future. However, there are currently no alternative arrangements which anyone has put forward, written down in legal form or demonstrated in practice, which achieve what both sides are determined to achieve: the avoidance of a hard border. The backstop is intended as an insurance policy for avoiding a hard border in all scenarios, no matter what else happens as a consequence of Brexit and any divergence that occurs thereafter. The government is convinced that the backstop is necessary to protect the Good Friday Agreement, and the current uncertainty and political instability in the United Kingdom reinforces our view that it is needed. The best way forward now is to ratify the Withdrawal Agreement and to use the time provided by the transition period, almost 2 years if not more, to negotiate a future relationship or alternative arrangements to avoid any need to ever invoke it. I've said this before and I'll say it again: a no-deal Brexit is the worst possible outcome and would not be in our interests, the interests of the British people or the European Union. Given the ongoing uncertainty in the UK and the proximity and approaching date of Brexit, the government is continuing to take concrete steps in preparation for a no deal. These include the publication on the 19th of December of the government's contingency action plan, The plan sets out our approach to dealing with a no-deal Brexit. The plan includes analysis of the impact across all aspects of public life, including the economy and public finances, security, Northern Ireland and North-South relations. And it provides detailed sectoral analyses and approaches, both at an EU level and a national level, to mitigate the impacts of a no-deal Brexit. On the 30th of January, an update to the Contingency Action Plan was published, setting out how preparations for a no-deal scenario have intensified since the 19th of December. This includes prioritised drafting of Brexit-related legislation and detailed government consideration of important policy areas, including transport connectivity and ongoing preparations at the ports and airports, the supply of medicines, agri-food and fisheries, the common travel area and macroeconomic impacts. This work is informed by intensive planning across all relevant departments and agencies to prepare as best we can for no deal. To inform the public about our preparations, Government launched the Getting Ireland Brexit Ready public information campaign last September, including a website and dedicated social media presence. To date, 68 events in 21 counties have been held, with another 18 events scheduled for the coming weeks. These include 6 Getting Ireland Brexit Ready workshops in Cork, Galway, Monaghan, Dublin, Limerick and Letterkenny. Over 2,500 people have attended, and there's been strong participation from the business community as well as the voluntary sector. Government is also providing information to assist business and other affected sectors to respond and prepare for Brexit, including financial assistance from Enterprise Ireland and local enterprise bodies. Practical assistance is also available in the form of Brexit advisory clinics, Board BIA's Brexit Barometer and Enterprise Ireland's Brexit Scorecard. The Revenue Commissioners have also engaged with over 80,000 businesses to date to raise awareness of customs obligations. At EU level, there is a strong understanding of the unique and disproportionate impact of Brexit on vulnerable economic sectors, particularly our farmers and fishermen and the rural economy. The Commission has said that it stands ready to support Ireland in finding solutions to these specific challenges. And the European Commission has adopted a package of contingency measures preparing for a possible no deal. And as recently as last week, the EU Commission announced the adoption of revised rules on state aid in the agricultural sector, signalling an increase in national support for farmers from 15,000 to 25,000. The budget for 2019 also includes a €78 million package for farmers, fishermen and food SMEs to cover additional costs related to Brexit. Work is underway to provide temporary infrastructure at Dublin and Rosslare ports and also Dublin Airport, so that the necessary checks and controls can be applied in a no-deal scenario. Recruitment of staff and development of IT systems is also on track. Engagement with stakeholders is an important aspect of the Government's domestic response to Brexit. Within the framework of the All-Ireland Civic Dialogue, 5 plenary dialogues and 20 sectoral dialogues have taken place across the country. Alongside the Taoiseach, I hosted the 5th plenary session in Dublin Castle on the 15th of February. Over 400 political, business and civic leaders gathered to continue this important all-island conversation, and I know many members were present as well. I updated participants on the Government's position on latest Brexit developments and our intensive contingency planning work, and I welcome the opportunity to hear the views of political parties north and south, and also to hear the concerns of participants through interactive panel discussions on people, citizens and rights and business preparations. There will be a certain level of disruption, but we're doing all we can to minimise it, and I urge businesses to step up their contingency planning for a no-deal Brexit and to utilise the supports available. Time is now short. Brexit of any kind means changes for the worse for Ireland, and no country can be fully prepared for no deal. It's uncharted territory. No country has ever left the EU before. However, we are prepared, as we can be, for this unprecedented challenge, and indeed it's prudent that we should be. The legislation the Taoiseach has introduced to this House is part of it. And while politically our focus is on assisting the UK to ratify the withdrawal agreement, the last 2 years we've been preparing for no deal as well. This legislation enables us to mitigate against some of the worst effects of no deal by protecting citizens' rights, security and facilitating extra supports for vulnerable businesses and employers. This Brexit Omnibus Bill, or BOB, is a result of more than a year's background work, starting with a root and branch review of the existing legislative landscape. The draft scheme of BOB was published on the 24th of January, and all 9 relevant government ministers have appeared before Oireachtas committees to discuss the contents. BOB prioritises issues that need to be dealt with urgently and immediately through primary legislation at a national level, complementing European legislation. Across the 15 parts, there are health provisions to protect citizens on a north-south basis. So, for example, that children in Belfast can continue to come to Dublin for specialist paediatric care, and patients in Donegal can continue to access hospital care in Altnagelvin. Bob also includes provisions to protect employees if their companies become insolvent, new powers for state agencies to intervene to aid business, provisions to ensure ferry crews can continue to operate in our ports, and protection for the single electricity market on the island. We will also have laws to ensure that bus operators can enter and operate in Northern Ireland, and there's legislation to protect British and Irish student grants so that we can continue to travel to each other's countries for education. Bob includes sections to ensure that social welfare and pension payments continue as normal for the thousands of people in Ireland who rely on British pensions each week for all or part of their income. The legislation also protects Irish citizens living in the UK who rely on pensions coming from here. These are all crucial issues that need a new legal base in the context of no deal. Work is progressing in parallel on a wide body of required and complementary second legislation, regulations and statutory instruments covering a wide range of issues, from the recognition of driver's licences, the recognition of qualifications, changes to facilitate the introduction of postponed accounting, and legislation to reduce the advance notification period for imports of animal and plants from third countries using roll-on, roll-off shipping. In recognition of the importance, depth and scope of this bill, I want to thank the Business Committee for waiving pre-legislative scrutiny. We'll continue to work closely with all members of the Oireachtas, listen to constructive proposals for amendments, and take into account all views. I think we can all agree that it's essential that the bill passes through all stages in the Dáil and Shannon in a timely fashion to be ready for commencement on the 29th of March. Thank you.